These are people who are either part of or not part of consciously an active and an engaged simplification movement in this country, where people are saying more and more, I'm going to give it some of it up. I don't need it. It's wasteful. It's not who I am, and it's not what I want to be. The third source are us baby boomers. Those who have 25, 35 more years of healthy living, who are saying, or coming to the realization, I want to learn, and I want to travel, and I want to teach, and I want to mentor, and I want to coach. I want to do something bigger than me. I don't want to, on my tombstone, something that says, he worked in a cubicle for 37 years. There's got to be more. And then lastly, there are those Americans, both attitudinally and behaviorally, who are making sacrifices and ready to make sacrifices because they're coming to the realization we are not the only people who live on this earth. Very interesting. And for those who kind of doubt that, I point to our history. We sacrificed during World War I and World War II. In the 1970s, we did not bat an eyelash when our presidents said to us, turn down the thermostat, put a sweater on. We did it. When I started in this business 24 years ago, I used to do community studies in little towns and cities all over the country. And engineering and planning departments would bring me in and they'd say, the state just said we've got to start a recycling program. I want you to do a poll, but I know they're not going to recycle. And I would come in and say, you know what? They told us they would. Yeah, but that's what they say. That was the early Bradley effect, you know? That's what they say they're going to do. And I said, no, what they told me is if there's leadership, if it's the right thing to do, and if we're sure everybody else is doing it, we'll do it. People recycle. When I was a kid, I loved saying this, telling this story to college audiences, because they're stunned. When I was a kid, it was not uncommon to be driving out in the country and there'd be a station wagon ahead of you, and that's where the college kids, a station wagon. And somebody would roll the window down, I go like this, and that's how you roll, that's how we used to roll the window down. And somebody would dump out a whole bag of garbage. Do you remember that? McDonald's wrappers and bags. I did anti-littering laws in communities. If it's the right thing to do, everybody else is doing it, and you slap them with a $500 fine, they don't do it anymore. Anti-smoking, I did that. No, Americans have a constitutional right to hold a cigarette and die. That is the Second and a Half Amendment. I did the one in New York City. Every restaurant in this town is going to shut down, they told me. No, they said they'd do it. You want to know how little we smoke in this country? Go to Europe. There's a lot going on. My final point. 18 You didn't have to work this afternoon, did you? 18 to 29-year-olds, America's first global citizens. 56% of our 18 to 29-year-olds have passports. They are just as likely to say, I'm a citizen of the planet Earth, as they are to say, I'm a citizen of the United States. They're multicultural, they're diverse, they're an exciting group of people. I want to talk much more about them, but I better stop. Thank you very, very much.
John has agreed to answer a question or two. He already answered a couple of them in his remarks. We will adjourn at 1:30, but open it up for questions from the audience. If you'd be kind enough to stand so we can hear your questions. Yes.
Could you comment on sort of the Sarah Palin phenomenon?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I sure can. Sarah Palin, the political phenomenon, and a very compelling political persona. She is a whole other part of America that elitist America doesn't believe exists. She is and was a major plus to John McCain. She helped him consolidate his conservative base, no question. She brought in a fresh face right at the moment that stole Barack Obama's thunder, right after his huge speech at the convention. And then what she was supposed to do is give John McCain cover. While she was tossing out the red moose meat to the conservatives, McCain was supposed to steer it down the middle as the moderate reformer. And that's where John McCain dropped the ball. The other thing, too, is that like a good VP nominee, she was also supposed to disappear after the first week. And she didn't. She became too compelling of a political persona. Does she hurt John McCain? No. This is about Obama versus McCain. When the final analysis, that's how people will vote. The ones who hate Sarah Palin, we're not going to vote for John McCain anyway.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other question?
I said it all, I guess.
Yes.
It's been my experience that many young people today know very little about American history, and the group that you were talking about really don't understand, what happened during World War II, World War II. They can't even tell you who won World War II. These are honored graduates of our high school.
Sir, you're absolutely right, and I'm a history professor retired, recovering. And it is true. I have painfully come to grips with the fact that maybe they don't have to after all. I thought that in order to graduate from college, there ought to be a simple, basic set of facts and concepts that everybody should know. And I think that I've come to the realization that instead, since very shortly, and I'm not being facetious, very shortly from now, it's all going to be implanted right up here in a chip, that what we have to teach our young people to do is to think, to rationalize, to decide, to know how to draw up the information and use the information when they need to. And I'm sorry to come to that realization, but I think that it's probably very true, and it will make your life and my life a whole lot easier if we kind of reduce our expectations. Let me tell you something about kids. I talk about 18 to 29-year-olds all the time, and the one thing I have to say for them, they're not necessarily the smartest. They may not know where Darfur is on the map, but what makes them so different from all of us when we were in our 20s is that they at least know that there is a Darfur on the map, and they care about it. And I think that's not a bad trade-off.
I'll ask one last question. If whoever's elected on Tuesday is polling above 50% at the end of their first 12 months, what one thing will they have done in their first 90 days in office?
Certainly consolidate the middle, but there are so many issues and the expectations are so high, but I think that the first item on the agenda will probably be infrastructure renewal. That's a quickie, and it is so necessary, and there isn't anyone who disagrees with it. And so I think that's an easy one.
Please join me in thanking John Zogby.